Today we're going to be working on the software program called Car Builder. It'll take a minute for the program to load up. All of the data has to be pushed into the computer's RAM in order for the program to run. RAM means Random Access Memory, and it's memory inside the computer that will store a program while you're using it. When you shut the program off, the program will disappear from the computer. As you can see, the program has now come up on the screen, and it's asking us to press any key. When it says press any key, usually you should press the Enter key. We pressed Enter, and as you can see, we have a little picture of a car on the top of the screen. We have a main menu below it. We have the letters ESC, which stand for Escape, and that's if we want to exit the program. And then the letters M for Mechanical Design, B for Body Design, T for Test Car, S for Car Storage, and R for Car Report. The letter M for Mechanical Design means that we're going to take a look at the chassis of the car, the engine of the car, the transmission of the car, the shock absorbers, the tires, and the brakes. B for Body Design means that we'll get to choose 2 or 3 different body styles for the vehicle, and those body styles will be able to fit around the configuration that we've chosen for the car. T means Test Car, and we're going to do this a couple of ways. We're going to test it aerodynamically, and we're going to test it on a simulated road racing course. S is for Car Storage, and that's if you'd like to store your vehicle in the computer and call it up for reference later on. R is for Car Report, and with using the letter R, we can get a report on the aerodynamic characteristics of our vehicle, as well as some of the specifications, the size of the engine, the weight of the vehicle, and so on. The first thing we want to do is push the letter M for Mechanical Design to get into that menu. As you can see, we now have the chassis of a car, which is actually the skeleton or framework of the vehicle, and we have a couple of seats and a steering wheel and an engine located over the front wheels. What we're going to do now is we're going to modify the mechanical design of the vehicle by pushing the letter M. As you can see, we now have 3 other choices to choose from: chassis, drivetrain, S for suspension and steering, and T for tires and brakes. Let's push the letter C. What we have now is a little drawing again at the top of the screen, which gives us the configuration of the chassis. In this case, the length of the vehicle would be 195 inches, the wheelbase would be 110 inches, and the weight of the chassis would be 550 pounds. Let's take a look at some of the other chassis styles there. To do this, we use the up and down arrow. So let's push the down arrow, push the down arrow key, and you'll see the chassis configuration change. Here we go. The next chassis that we have is 200 inches long, with a wheelbase of 115 inches, and a weight of 650 pounds. Let's scan through some of the others. There's one of 205 inches in length. That might be a luxury car, maybe a Lincoln Continental, something along that line, a little bit longer. We have a 3-seater chassis. That might be a seater for a passenger van. We have a 185-inch long chassis, and that might be a sports car perhaps. 190-inch long chassis, again, maybe a sports car. Another 190-inch long, but a little bit heavier chassis at 450 pounds. This might be a compact car, 2 seats, perhaps something like a Toyota or Chevrolet Cavalier. Again, 195-inch chassis, 200-inch chassis. Again, 205 inches, and we're back to the 3-seater. Well, I think I'm going to design myself a van this time around, and I'm going to select the 205-inch chassis. To do that, we simply take the left and right arrow key, and we move into the next category. So as you can see on the center of the screen, the word chassis is highlighted. What we're going to do now is we're going to move the right arrow over to engine. So push the right arrow, and it'll push us into the engines. There we go. We've got a number of different motors to choose from. As you can see on the top of the screen, we have the type. In this case, it's a V6 overhead valve, displacement 170 cubic inches. Then we have a horsepower reading, and this particular engine gives us 150 horsepower. It will also give us 159 foot-pounds of torque. It is a front-mounted engine, and it weighs 430 pounds. Let's scan with the up and down arrow and see what other engines we have. We have an inline four-cylinder, single overhead cam turbocharged engine. This is a nice engine for a small sports car. We have another single overhead cam turbocharged engine, a little bit heavier, a little bit more powerful. We have another single overhead cam engine. This one is a little less powerful, but it's also a little bit lighter. Another single overhead cam engine, a little bit smaller as well, very light engine. Then we have an inline five-cylinder engine, single overhead cam. Mercedes-Benz uses this kind of an engine in some of their mid-size cars. We have a double overhead cam inline four-cylinder engine. And we have a V8, 305 cubic inch engine, 180 horsepower, 240 foot-pounds of torque, front-mounted, 545 pounds. I like that engine for my passenger van, so I'm going to stick with that one, and I'm going to select that by taking the right arrow key and moving over to transmission. Here we go. We have several different types of transmissions to choose from. This one is a four-speed automatic transmission for a rear-wheel drive car, and it weighs 440 pounds, and it has gear ratios of 17.27 to 1, 2.47 to 1. Gear ratio means that as the engine turns, the transmission's job is to take the high rotation of the engine and slow it down to less rotation so that the rear wheels can turn at a reasonable speed. Let's take the up and down arrows and view some of the other transmissions. There's a 5-speed manual for a front drive vehicle. There's a 4-speed manual for a rear wheel vehicle. There's a 5-speed manual for a rear drive vehicle. There's a 5-speed manual for a four-wheel drive vehicle. That could be for a Jeep, a Land Rover, a Ford Explorer, a car like that. Here's a 4-speed automatic for rear-wheel drive, weighs 440 pounds. I think I like that transmission for my van. We're going to stick with that one. The next thing that we're going to take a look at is the fuel tank. We have to locate the fuel tank in the car because it's another large item that we have to make space for. Let's take the right arrow key and move to fuel tank. This particular fuel tank is 15 gallons. It weighs 50 pounds empty, 110 pounds when it's filled with gas. The average height is 80 pounds, and the mounting is in the rear of the vehicle. Let's take a look at some of the other fuel tanks by pushing the down arrow key. Here's an 18-gallon tank, 60 pounds empty weight, 132 pounds full weight. Average weight is 96 pounds, and it mounts in the rear. I like this fuel tank. I think I'm going to stay with this particular tank on my van. Well, now we've selected the chassis, the engine, the transmission, and the fuel tank and capacity for the van. What we're going to do now is we're going to go back to the menu that we had previously and select some other characteristics for our vehicle. So let's push the escape key, and that'll move us to the last menu. Now we've selected our engine, chassis, got our 3 seats. Now we're going to go to the suspension and steering of the car. So let's push the letter S. And as you can see, it's now asking us for front suspension. There's rear suspension in the middle, and the steering. The first thing we have to decide is what kind of shock absorbers we're going to have. The first type of shocks are gas shocks. They weigh 40 pounds each. Let's see what else we have by pushing the down arrow key. We have ride adjusting shocks, and these might be good shocks for our van because if we have a lot of people in it, we can pump air into these shock absorbers and we can raise the back of the vehicle up. But let's take a look and see what else we have. We have an anti-roll bar for the vehicle, which weighs 50 pounds. An anti-roll bar is a device that prevents the vehicle from rolling from side to side when it's cornering hard. Let's go to gas shocks again for 40 pounds. Ride adjusting shocks for 45 pounds. I think I'm going to stick with the ride adjusting shocks at 45 pounds. Let's take the right arrow key and go to the rear suspension. Again, we have gas shocks for 40 pounds of weight. We use the down arrow key to see what else we have. Ride adjusting shocks, 45 pounds. Well, it's important that you have the same kind of shock absorbers, both front and rear. So I'm going to take and select the ride adjusting shocks that weigh 45 pounds for my vehicle, and I'm going to move to the next category, which is steering, by pushing the right arrow key. And here's the type of steering that we have available to us. We have rack and pinion steering, which is a long rack with teeth in it, and a little gear moves on the rack, and as you turn the steering wheel, the long rack turns back and forth, moves the connecting arms that go to the wheels, and moves the wheels left or right. Let's see what else we have. We have power-assisted steering. It's a turning circle of 43.2 feet. Turning circle means what is the smallest diameter circle that the vehicle will turn into. If you were in a supermarket parking lot and there were some very small spaces that would be hard to get into, you'd appreciate a tight turning circle so that you could maneuver easily. Turns, L/L, that means lock to lock. And that is explained by if you turn the steering wheel all the way to the left and then all the way to the right, it would make 3.5 rotations. That steering system weighs 210 pounds. Let's see what else we have. The next type of steering we have is called recirculating ball. The turning circle on this steering is 38.1 feet, and it has a turning lock to lock of 2.9 turns. The weight is 155 pounds. Let's take a look at another steering system. This one is rack and pinion steering. This kind of steering is generally used on more high-performance vehicles and quick vehicles. The next one we have is rack and pinion, 47-foot turning circle. Power-assisted, 43.2 feet, 3.5 turns lock to lock, and it weighs 210 pounds. I like that steering for my van. I think that's the one that we're going to choose. So now that I've selected front suspension, rear suspension, and steering, I'm going to move over to the next part of the menu and go back and select some tires. To do that, let's go to Escape. And as you can see, we've done the letters C, S, and now we're going to do T for tires and brakes. So let's push the letter T. As you can see, we have some tires coming up on the screen. The first type is a radial ply tire, 8 inches in width, hard composition tires, and it weighs 30 pounds. Let's take a look at some of the others. With the down arrow key, we've got belted tires, 10 inches in width, soft composition, when they weigh 40 pounds. The softer the composition means that the tire will grip the road better, but they will wear out faster. A hard composition tire will give you better wear, but it doesn't quite grip the road as much. Next we have belted tires, 10 inches in width, medium composition, with a weight of 40 pounds. Here we have belted tires, 10 inches in width, hard composition, and they weigh 40 pounds. I think I'm going to select those tires for my van. Let's move to the rear tires. Push the right arrow, and we come up with the same menu. Radial tires, 8 inches. I'm going to look for the 10-inch wide belted tires with the hard composition. There's the soft composition, medium composition, and hard composition. I'm going to choose those. Using the right arrow key, let's select some brakes for our vehicle. Let's go to front brake by pushing the right arrow key. Here we have vented disc brakes, 9.5 inches in diameter, and they weigh 90 pounds. I think I'd like something a little bit heavier in my van. Let's go to the down arrow key and see the different kinds of brakes that we have. We have vented disc brakes, 10 inches in diameter, and they weigh 110 pounds. I like those brakes. I think I'm going to select those for front brakes. And let's go to the rear brakes. Vented discs, 9.5 inches in diameter, and they weigh 98 pounds. I think those will be ample for the rear of our van. Front brakes give about 50% more braking than the rear brakes do. They're much more efficient. If you happen to have a vehicle and your front brakes go out on you, you're going to have a problem. Rear brakes, you're still going to have lots of stopping power. But in any case, let's keep those brakes in good condition. So now that we've selected our rear brakes, let's go back and return to our last menu and take a look at some of the other things we need to do to finish our vehicle. So pushing the escape key, we'll move back. We've done chassis, suspension, and tires. Let's go back to the last menu, and we'll go back one more, and let's pick up B for body design. We've got to give our vehicle a body. So let's push the letter B. As you can see, we've got a body shape on the computer screen, and it looks like a bit of a passenger car. And I think we're going to try and find a body that maybe looks a little bit more like a van. So let's push the down arrow key to view parts. There's a funny looking nose for a vehicle right there. There's a slope nose, maybe a little sporty. A little bit more. A little bit more. Kind of a tucked-in nose there. That's probably for a rear-engine drive car. There's our limousine nose again. A couple of different styles of that. A little bit more square of a nose. And a little bit more like the van nose I'm looking for. It's kind of funny looking, but I kind of like it. I think it's going to make my van look real nice. And then next, let's select the roof. We'll take the right arrow key and move over to roof. By using the down arrow key now, we can select different roof lines. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I think I'm going to settle on that one. It's a little bit sloped in the front. It'll give us a little bit of good headroom in the center of the van. And now let's go to the rear of our vehicle. Push the right arrow key, and there's the rear of the vehicle. Let's push the down arrow key and see what we have. Now there's a sporty rear end for the car, a little spoiler on the back. Now that's what I'm looking for. I like that rear end for the car. That's what I think I'll choose. What we're going to do now, we've chosen the body design for the vehicle. We'll push the escape key and move back. And now what they're asking us to do is we can modify the body of our vehicle, we can customize the body, or we can store the whole body in the computer for use later. Well, let's go to M, and let's see if we can do a little bit of a modification here. So I'll push the letter M, and what it says that we can do now, if you take a look on the screen right above the hood of the vehicle, you'll see a little arrow. And what I can do with that arrow is I can raise and lower a line, I can move over the body, or I can clear a fixed point on the body. So what I can do is, if you watch, I'm going to bring my arrow key down. I'm going to move over to the left, okay, and I'm going to, see, I'm pushing in the nose of the vehicle. Well, we certainly wouldn't want it to look like that, so let's kind of back up there a little bit. And we'll move it over a little bit more, and we'll back up, and we'll move it over a little bit more to the right, and we'll back up a little bit over to the left now. I want to get rid of that little dot there. And we'll go a little bit more to the right, and let's pull that one out. Oh, a little too far. A little bit to the right now, and let's pull that one a little too far right there. So what we've done is we've given our vehicle a little bit of a bigger nose. Now you can use the pointer at any place at all in the vehicle to really customize the body. Let's escape from here and go back to the main menu. What we can do now is we can customize our body if we like. So let's push the letter C. Now we can put some windows in our vehicle, and we can add some decals. Well, let's take a look at these windows. Let's push the letter W. If you take a look now, it says A for add window, R for remove last window, and S for start over. Well, let's add a window to our vehicle. Let's push the letter A. As you can see, a little spot is on the screen right about where the driver's head would be in the front part of the car. By using the up and down arrow key, we can alter the window height. So let's go on the down arrow. And there's part of a window. Now let's take the right arrow key and let's move our window towards the back of the car. We'll give it a nice big window. Good visibility. All right. Now let's go to escape. And what we can do is we can remove a window or add a window or start over. Well, we just wanted to add a window. Let's back out a little bit farther. And let's look at some decals. We'll type the letter D for decals. And let's apply a decal. And as you can see, we have a little stripe on the bottom. And let's type the word in there, van, V-A-N. That's what our vehicle is. So now we've designed the body of our car. We've added some windows to the car. And we've done a little stripe on the bottom. Let's escape to our last menu. We're now in the body design menu. We've got to go back a couple of more. There we are at our main menu now. Well, there's our vehicle. It's 3 seats. It's a front engine. It's got big brakes and tires on it. Let's see how it performs. So let's go to T for test car. And we've got two types of tests we can do. First, we can do a wind tunnel test, and then we can do a road test. Well, let's go to the wind tunnel. As you can see, we have a drag of 992, which gives us a coefficient of 0.416250. It's not a particularly good drag coefficient, but it is a van. It's probably not meant to slide through the air easily like a sports car, like a Corvette or a Jaguar. And as it says, moderately high drag, this car will produce some serious wind noise. Well, that's true. I do have a van that I drive, and when the windows are open, there's a lot of noise that comes into the car. But then again, I usually carry lots of things with me in the van, so that's not too much of a problem. Let's press any key. Let's press Enter. And now let's go to the road test. Let's press the letter R. Here's our road test. It says the engine chosen seems well suited to the weight of this car. There was a good deal of wind noise and shudder at high speed. Well, we knew that. Low-speed cornering is stiff and sluggish. Maybe could have used a little bit bigger engine. The low torque of this engine makes accelerating out of the turns really tricky. Well, we maybe could have used a little bit bigger engine. But the car has no problem when it comes to braking on the downhill because we chose big brakes. High-speed cornering with this car is scary, and that's probably because we should have had heavier shock absorbers. So we've completed our road test. Let's now press any key, escape key, and we have our road test results. Top speed, 73 miles an hour. It accelerates at 0.6 Gs. Acceleration in the quarter mile is 18.8 seconds. Quarter mile speed of 50 miles an hour. Acceleration, 14.2 seconds from 0 to 60. And braking from 60 miles an hour to 0 is 155 feet. Let's take another look at some of the other things. What we can do now is go to our escape menu, and we can do a car report. So let's go to R, and let's take our report to the screen of the computer. So we push S. Miles per gallon, 30 miles per gallon. The length is 218 inches. Wheelbase is 120 inches. It weighs 2,847 pounds. 52 inches high. The weight distribution is 55-45, and that means that 55% of the weight of the car is over the front wheels, and 45% of the weight of the car is over the back wheels. The fuel capacity is 18 gallons. The seating capacity is 6, and the cruising range is 540 miles. Well, this would be a good van. It gets good mileage, good cruising range. There's the engine, our V8 of 305 cubic inches. Our transmission, our 4-speed automatic. And the handling, we have our belted tires on the front and belted tires on the rear, and our power-assisted steering. And there's our shock absorbers and our brakes. And we're back into our speed testing. Let's go to escape again. And now, if we like, we can take this to P to the printer, and you'll not only get a printout of the performance of the vehicle, but you'll get a complete report on all the different components that you put in. The last thing that we'd want to do is return to the last menu, and we can go to car storage. So we push the letter S, and as you can see, we can return to the last menu. We can change the directory of the computer. We can load a program. If we've been working on a car and we want to make some modifications, we can load it from the computer. We can save it back down to the computer, or we can take a look and see what cars have been in there already. So what we're going to do is, if we would like to save this on the B drive, we'll simply hit S. And we have to give our car a name. Let's call it Van. And we hit Enter again, and the computer saves the car onto the B drive. Well, that's all we have for today. I hope you enjoy using Car Builder. It's a fun program. It'll give you a little bit of an idea of what it takes to design a car, both the chassis and the body design, and give you a little bit of an idea of how you can change some of the components to give your car a little bit better performance, a little bit better stopping power. At any point in time during the program, you can go back through the menus, and you can change the engine size, the size of the brakes, and the body style. If you've taken your car and done the road test, and you don't like the handling of the car, or you think the car is too slow, try giving the car a new engine, a bigger engine, maybe some bigger brakes or some wider tires. All of these things will help you design a great car. After you finish the tape, rewind it and put it back into its proper storage place.